Hello, welcome everybody. This is Abracadabra Sisters. I want to just say quickly what we're doing here, which is exploring the concept of creativity and how our words create our reality. The word abracadabra actually means I create as I speak in the ancient Aramaic. And I think we as a human culture have kind of lost touch with that magic of our own words. And we misunderstand the magic of our own words a lot of the time. So we are dedicating ourselves in this channel to talking to people about creativity, how they create, why they create, what they're creating, how they fit it into life, how they make their life work with their creativity. So, Sharon, please introduce our guest.
Yeah, hello, I'm Sharon, and I'd like to introduce our guest, Gretchen Reinhagen. Gretchen has so many hats. Like me, she has a day job, a corporate day job. We won't discuss that, but she has a very rich, active, creative life outside of her job, and it's in the theater. And it's in music and we'd like to discuss it with her, and we'll learn more from talking with her here. So, hello,
Cool.
Gretchen.
Hi. So nice to be here with you guys.
How did you get started with your
Oh,
passion?
um,
And you explain it to us.
sure. Which passion? It's funny. What Sharon
You
said.
sound like Muriel when you say that. Which passion?
Which
She's got so
passion?
many.
I know
Well,
we were talking about that the other day that some of us who are actually like working in the arts, we take a
right.
break from our arts work to do
Sure.
other art, to do
Sure.
some
And
other
I've
something,
I've done that many times too.
Yeah.
And Sharon was saying the many hats thing. And yeah, in true Gemini fashion, we're in my season. There's lots of different facets to it. I was kind of born into it. My father was a singer and an actor. And when I was very young, I was attached to my dad, followed him everywhere, and he would sing with me. And at the same time, my mother's family, my mom and my dad met they were both music ed majors. And then my mother went education and dropped the music part of it. But she came from a musical family. So my dad was the only one in his family really that followed music. But my mom's whole family, my grandfather was a piano teacher. So I had like the extended family of musicians on her side and then my dad. They were all musicians and educators of some format. So there was kind of no getting away from the fact that I was definitely going to be teaching at some point and I was going to be making music somehow at some point. And like all kids when they're programs at school, like we had a band program in my elementary school, and so I started playing the flute, and I played that up and through junior high. And I came home one day, and my dad was teaching high school in another district, band and chorus, and I came home one day and I said, I heard about this Southeastern music festival. I'm going to audition to be in the orchestra. And my father said, "Yeah, you could do that." He said, "Why don't you audition for the chorus?" And I said, "Because I don't sing, I play the flute." He's like, "Sometimes when you practice." But he said, "I just think you might like the chorus better." He said, "Just take my word for it." And I went, "Oh, okay, fine." So I looked into at school, how I could do that. And I had to join the school chorus, and I started singing, and I think I was about 12. And I had no idea I was a singer. And I mean, I had sung at a very young age, with my dad's band and stuff for fun, but I never, after that, I got shy and other things, and it was like, I didn't think I was a singer. So at 12, I found out what he'd always known, which was that, yeah, that was always going to be my primary instrument was my voice. And it became my passion, and it took off, and he was not wrong. He was just waiting for me to know it.
Hmm.
So that was, yeah, how it all started. And then my family was great about being involved in like the local community theater. I mean, I grew up in Massachusetts on the Cape. So um, there were still plenty of arts and performing opportunities. Very different from what kids have access to in New York, but still lots of fun things to do and ways to learn. And for my dad, that was really all he wanted from me. He never wanted me to take formal voice lessons until I was 18. And up until then, he just encouraged me to try out for any musical I saw or any play I wanted to be a part of, sing as much as I wanted, and then deal with the rest of it. And I'm grateful because uh, I had a strong voice because of that.
Is there a reason to wait till you're 18 for lessons?
So for him, he was always concerned about so kids, I mean, your voice is a part of your body. It's a muscle like anything else that you train, and kids' voices are fragile and they're still growing. And he knew of too many kids who had their voices ruined by teachers who didn't really know how to teach kids. I have taught kids on and off over many years, but because I know that and because of kind of how I was raised, I tend to make my lessons for kids more about musicianship and less about strain on the voice. There are certain voice types as well that you can start them really early. Like some of the coloratura sopranos, like remember like the Beverly Sills and all of those wonderful singers of her ilk. When they have that lighter soprano voice, you can start younger. Your voice matures much younger. I had this big mezzo soprano voice that was going to take a while to really grow, and I don't think my voice really matured until I was, well into my 30s or early 40s.
Really?
Yeah, so that was kind of that was where he was coming from, but um, it was something I have a lot of respect for. So I'm very careful now when I work with kids. It's all about just having fun. That was how I started, and then I kind of ended up in New York. I was teaching school and teaching K-12 music for a couple of years right out of college, and then I moved to New York. It was kind of one of these, okay, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And I was in my late 20s at that point, and packed up and came and started trying to do this whole theater thing.
So,
So
so now I feel like I need to ask you,
yeah.
why did you get a job in the corporate world?
So I always felt like actors, when you come to New York, and of course we all know about actors being waiters, and that's a big, there were like two industries that you went into. You either were a temp or you worked in the food industry and as a server. And I was terrible at serving. I'd forget things all the time. I was the world's worst waitress. And so temping was definitely going to be my bread and butter. And I did that for a long time and and then I'd go away all summer and do summer stock and things like that. And then I'd come back and temp some more. And I got to a point where, a little later in my life, and I was married and I wanted things like I wanted to buy a couch. I wanted some grown-up things. I wanted health insurance. I wanted all those wonderful things. And I had a job at an investment bank. Um, and I decided just to kind of go full time. And what ended up happening was that was really when my cabaret career started to kind of build and take off because when I couldn't go out of town as often to do theater, I found that I loved the art form of cabaret and I could still work nights on any project I wanted. It was a wonderful medium to begin to explore, and I still work in that field quite a bit. I could build my own projects. I could do my own thing. I could cast myself in the role that I wanted, that I wasn't booking otherwise. I could sing whatever I wanted to sing. And when I kind of discovered the freedom of that platform, and it's such a beautiful thing, it's like a concert or a show, but in a much more intimate space. So, you're up there singing for an hour with no fourth wall. You are just up there as you. And which was scary at first, but I learned to really love it. And there's a wonderful community of cabaret artists in this city. So once I went the corporate route, I managed to really go that direction and really, kind of build something for myself. And that's still where I'm sort of where I've
So,
done, my most some of my bigger and better works are in the cabaret world. So, yeah.
so you write these cabaret shows, or you collaborate with people and write them, and then you perform them in front of at parties, or
Whoever will come. So there are a number of, I mean, back in the day there were the supper clubs, right? And it's still that kind of a thing. Don't Tell Mama is a very famous one here in the city. 54 Below has become quite popular, so that's a well-known room. And it's basically a dinner club kind of thing, or a room with, cocktail tables and a stage and a grand piano and any other musicians you want to bring. And so it really is this very intimate concert in a sense that you're building. You can do something that's more theatrical. I have a show. The show that I sort of got the most acclaim for was a tribute to Kay Ballard, who was a Broadway actress, a TV actress. I don't know if you remember a show called The Mothers-in-Law, but she starred in that with Eve Arden. She did a lot of movies, but she did a lot of Broadway stuff and was really kind of one of the last vaudevillians of her time before she passed a few years back.
Standing here, I'm looking all around me, and one thing becomes very plain. As I look from face to face, as I look around the place, one thought keeps running through my brain. What's a nice girl like me doing, working in a joint like this? I knew I was slipping, and Minsky's one done. When I started stripping, they hollered, and then the teeny tiny tragedy began. Teeny tiny violins were playing, and he was saying, "You go to my teeny tiny head." But when he told her of his wife, she grabbed an itty bitty knife and went to his tiny neck instead.
And so I did a big tribute to her that's almost more like a theater piece. So I've done it as a two-act piece in a big theater, and I've done it in a small, intimate room like Pangea, which is a club downtown that seats about 40 people. So, um, so you have all kinds of acts coming into these rooms.
and
It's
how
kind
do
of
you
like going to
fund?
Joe's Pub, Sharon.
Yeah,
What was
exactly.
that?
Same thing.
Like,
Joe's Pub's much bigger venue,
oh
but yeah,
yeah,
still same
okay.
idea.
How do you fund putting together a show like that? I
With
mean,
a
it must
corporate
be.
day job.
With a
Um,
corporate day job. Yeah.
at a certain point, I began directing as well. And so I eventually left the investment bank and was just directing and teaching voice for a while before I came back to the job where I was lucky enough to meet you, Sharon, and work for this crazy man that we all know and love. But before him, and actually, I will just say my boss, Andy, is the reason I still have a corporate job because I just kind of, he provides me with more material than I could ever dream up on my own. So he's a part of any show I write now. But
Does
the
he
but
know that?
the funding stuff, it is really tough because you are most artists are self-produced, and it's a whole lot of saving and trying to be economical with how you rehearse, when you rehearse. I like to have a director because I came from the theater world, and that was a structure that that made sense to me. And I knew I needed that third eye. So I happened to be lucky enough to work with a man named Barry Kleinbort, who was actually one of Kay Ballard's directors when she did Cabaret, and works with, everyone from Kay Ballard on down. And I really kind of learned, I feel like I really learned my craft from him, and also learned how to direct from him. And so, now when you're a director, you're getting paid for your time by the client, who's the artist, and the producer, usually one and the same. And so I've made my living when I wasn't in a corporate job more on that end of it. But as the artist funding it, it can be very difficult.
I can imagine.
And it's hard you have to look at it too as what do you want to get out of it? What are you investing in? Because um, we don't have these long running cabarets like we used to. So you're going to spend thousands of dollars and build this show that you may run 4 or 5 times. And maybe you extend it a few times and you do it a handful more times before you're on to your next show. And so it's impossible. You're constantly upside down on it. So you have to have other, like, I'm building my resume, or I'm building my reel, or I'm getting people in to see the show. It's an investment in myself as the artist when I'm producing a show that goes beyond the product itself.
Working a full-time job, I have the freedom to just do the art for the
Yes,
sake of the art.
right.
I don't have to make a living out of it, and it gives me the freedom to take 2.5 years to do one needlepoint
Yeah,
and not worry about like, you know,
right,
how long it's taking. So to a certain extent, it gives you a freedom to just go with whatever your vision is and
right,
not have to tailor it to somebody who's paying the bills.
right, right. Absolutely. And that certainly has been a big piece of it. Like when I came back to the corporate world and took the job that I am in now, I had even said at the time, I said, "Look, I'm still teaching and directing and have my own studio, and I'm not I'm not giving that up for you. So we'll see how, as long as this all works out."
Does
And
Andy come to your shows?
Andy does. He loves to be at my shows. He particularly loves when there are jokes about him. So there almost always is some kind of Andy joke in the show. He's
And
been known to
he
stand
knows
up
it.
and take a bow.
He expects it and he
He
knows it's going to
expects it.
happen. Yeah.
He jokingly, started saying years ago that every dumb thing he said during the day was like, if I caught it, it was copywritten. He's like, Gretchen, you cannot use that unless you're going to pay me for it. But yeah, he loves
Sounds like a lawyer.
he he is. Yes, I work for a lawyer. Very good. Yeah, but he's wonderful, and he's a big lover of. I mean, he almost went the music direction career wise. He loves the music industry, and he loves theater, and he's a huge supporter. And the first time he came to a show, was doing a show at a club called the Metropolitan Room, which is no more, but it was down on 23rd Street. And it was the first thing he saw me do. And I think it was a blues show. And I was doing all blues music and comedy, and I had backup singers and a band. It was a big show. And he came up to me afterwards, and he gave me the biggest hug. And he just looked at me and he's like, I don't know what you're doing with me, but
Yeah.
I want you to stay. So I'm glad you're here. But he said, why are you working for me? And so he's always been incredibly supportive. And I would always say, because I need to pay the rent. So
Hmm.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there.
it is. But you brought up a great point when you said I can take the time um, to do the art for the love of the art. And the teacher in me loves that. When I'm directing a show, a lot of times I'm directing for a client who has had a corporate career. I have a client who ended up, writing a book, and we did her book release, and we just did a big, she's now doing keynote speeches, and we built a cabaret around her keynote speech. And for many years until she retired, she was the head of an HR team at a large investment bank. And but this was a passion she'd always had. She'd always wanted to be an actor. She'd always wanted to sing, and she found her voice. And I have a lot of clients like that who are coming into it as either a post-retirement thing in some cases, um, a second career. You have people who've raised children, and now their children are older and they can go out and and make their own art. And I it gets challenging in the cabaret world because you've got a big mix of people like that and professional artists who are doing this as well and trying to do this professionally. And the clubs in New York don't have their own following like a theater might, a regional theater, right? Has a subscriber
Yeah.
patronage. And in New York, there's so many things to do. Audiences tend to follow artists. So a lot of times, whether you are, a Broadway star doing a cabaret, um, or somebody who this is, who's coming into this for the pure love of it and has always dreamed of doing a show, we're all working for the door. So that's one of the sort of challenging things for professionals is that there isn't quite the opportunity to work on the same professional level we used to be able to, with guarantees and a little less risk and a little more being paid for our time. The flip side of that is that I do love that there are rooms that will take in the beginners and people who can fund their own show, and give them a platform and a place to speak, because we all have a voice, we all have a story, we all have something to say. And some people have this huge dream and desire of saying that, you know, in a show, on a stage, and to be able to facilitate that for someone is huge for me.
Mm.
It's that, to me, of everything I do, that might be one of my biggest passions, because it's not about me getting to make art. It's about helping somebody else get to live out a dream. And, the fact that we here in New York have outlets for that, I think is really cool. So I myself went back a couple years ago to teaching less and going back into class, and going back to an acting class that I was in for a while, and got a new agent, and I'm doing other things, and doing some film stuff, and trying to go back into more acting as I gear up for maybe Andy to retire someday, and for me to have more time. But it was important to me too, because I knew that I needed to also kind of go back and start doing these things, both for my profession and for my craft, but also for my heart. To be in class with my peers is an amazing experience.
Yeah.
It's the community.
It's a community.
Part of why Muriel and I have been. I mean, this was birthed out of a whole idea of
Yeah.
building a community and encouraging people to join a community of creative people.
Yes.
It saddens me when I hear someone say, "Oh, I wish I was creative. I wish I could do," and I feel like saying, "Well, try. You
Try.
probably are creative. You
You
just
If you
give
have
it a
that wish
shot."
and that desire, that's right.
Right. Just give it a shot. And even if you just do one or two things once a
Right.
month or something,
Right.
it feeds the soul. It's something that is so um it's so enriching,
Yes.
that I want everyone to enjoy that feeling.
Yeah, we really need to feed our souls. We need joy. We need to always remember to find that way to find joy. And for me, that's singing or acting. Um, Occasionally, it's having a conversation with Andy, luckily. But, it's also this other side of it. Being able to express myself. Music to me is it's my form of prayer. So I'm not a great pianist, but I have this beautiful piano that was gifted to me. And when I am home alone with, not much to do and or I have things on my mind or I'm not feeling my best, emotionally, I can just sit down and just play whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I hit clunkers. It doesn't matter if it has any kind of form. I can just play and create for myself, and it has always been my form of prayer. And I just think to be able to, one of the things I love about living in New York is that it's a city that does have all of those various outlets, like you're saying, just try, take a class, take a sewing class, take a cooking class, take a cabaret class, you know,
Go to an audition.
go to an audition, do the tour at the museum, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Join an improv group.
Join an improv group. Now that's terrifying, but
Or
yeah,
stand up.
I'm trying to
yeah,
encourage my husband to do that.
yes.
I
I
Oh,
have
think
a
it's
he,
friend
fun.
who,
It
yeah,
is
he's really into
really
piano.
I
fun.
think
It's a
he would
fun
be
thing.
I think he'd be
Yeah.
great with it because he's one of those people who walk into a party and then he starts making jokes,
Right.
he does impressions,
Yep.
what a couple of drinks in, he's very entertaining.
That's amazing. I'll go to the club and hear his set. Um, yeah, all of those groups, all of those improv groups, they all have classes as well. And you can take a class, and at the end of the class, you've got your 5 minute set, and you get up with the rest of the group and you do your set, and you decide from there. But what's also great about these things, whether you're sitting at home creating or whether you've joined a class, providing it's a good class, with an aware teacher, um, in these rooms, there's no judgment. The space is there for you to learn and create. It doesn't matter. We're all just sharing something that we have to say, something that's in us.
She wakes each day at the break of dawn. She gently opens her eyes. She scans the room and she takes it in. Another day is on the rise. Another day to put off the dream. There's far too much to do. She tells herself you can't hide away. They're all counting on you. So get out of bed. It's okay to cry. But either way, you're still gonna try to carry through. It's just what you do.
Music is something that I think, and I wrote a blog on this a long time ago, but it was something to the effect of how music belongs to all of us. And it does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't judge. Um, it's a universal language and it
Yeah, and
belongs to
there's
everyone.
something mystical about it too.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
it pulls the heartstrings
Yes.
in perplexing ways. So
Yes. Yeah, it's so true. And they're doing so much more with spirituality and sound, right? There's lots of these sound baths and sound kinds of therapies now, and
yeah,
yeah, it's fascinating.
yeah.
It's
Well,
such
it's
a
ancient.
healing
That's
thing.
ancient knowledge. I think
Yes.
it was funny when you talk about that. A friend of mine came back from Egypt. This was in the 80s, early 80s, and he said, we were going through um, Karnak, I think it was, this different chambers,
Hmm.
and his friend had a tuning whistle
Okay.
that he was blowing in the spaces, and then he walked into one of those chambers, and it was tuned perfectly to C. Then he went to the next one, and it was tuned to G or something. I don't know, but he went
Oh,
through and he
that's
noticed
wild.
that they were all tuned to a different frequency,
Yes.
and they surmised that they were possibly healing chambers.
Yeah.
And sure enough,
Wow.
there's a lot of people doing studying that now.
I just thought about this because when I have insomnia and I can't sleep, there's a few YouTube videos that I go to where they have the bowls, the
Yep.
sound
The
bowls,
sound bowls.
and
Yep.
there's some of them that are of a frequency that's supposed to help you go to sleep. Invariably, I put it on. That's the last thing I remember
Yep.
until the morning. And some of them are 12 hours long. So I wake up in the morning and it's still going, the guy's still playing the sound bowls.
That's amazing.
Well, the
Yeah.
interesting thing is it puts you into a state. It
Right.
different frequencies put you into different states of being and
Yes.
meditative states of being, which is great.
Right. Right. Um, and when you're uh, creating music, I think that's when we are sort of our at our closest, to our higher self is to connecting, in the conscious world to
Well,
that to source and that light within us, like when we're making music,
yeah,
when we're creating anything, really,
yeah.
when we're in that zone, that's when we're sort of at our purest, I
Well,
think.
it does say in the Bible, first there was the word,
Ah,
and that's
yes.
what it meant. It's
Yeah.
frequency. First,
Frequency.
first the frequency, the sound frequency came through
Okay.
and sort of shook everything into shape. Have
Hmm.
you seen those? They have those like metal sheets, and then they'll put a tonation on the sides,
And they start
and
to,
then all the sand on top of it starts
yep,
to
starts
shake
to make
around, and
different
then it starts
patterns.
making all these like mandala type
Yes.
patterns.
Yes. Yeah. It's fascinating.
And it
It's
happens in water too, and it'll,
yes.
make.
I've seen it yes, I've seen some
Yeah.
of those demonstrations as well. Yeah,
Anyway,
there are frequencies for whatever we want to manifest, right? I haven't quite figured out. It's like I feel like on an intellectual level, I absolutely subscribe to a lot of this. Now I just have to sort of make myself start to take some more of this in, believe in myself a little bit more to manifest the bigger job, the Broadway
yeah,
gig that I don't have to produce. But
yeah.
yeah.
I'm in the same place. I'm trying to manifest the bigger,
Yeah,
the bigger picture. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Right.
just to get more people on board with that big idea. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to manifest a little bit more time around the edges of my regular day to
Oh,
be
I
able to
hear
finish
you.
the projects that are
Yeah.
already in the work.
I hear you.
well, it's that's the other part. On the other side of the bigger project is
Yep.
just the little thing you can do today, just that one little thing. I mean,
Yes.
I've mentioned before a story that a friend of someone who my husband was working with many, many years ago, she would she would get up in the morning at 5 o'clock and write on her book for an hour before she went to work. And just by, dedicating that little bit of time,
Yep.
that moment to that project, she
Yep.
got it done. So, there's that's part of it. We can't get to the big thing
We
without
can't.
taking those steps on the way.
Right. We have to carve out the time for that. And I've been thinking about that a little bit more because I find that if I'm up alone in the morning early, uh it's such a peaceful time to kind of meditate or do some writing, whatever I'm feeling like I need to do to kind of get myself going. And so that is something I want to get better about carving out time for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly for me, I'm time for the crossword puzzle. I really should
You
just
know
do
what?
something
That's
else
great
and finish
too.
some of my artwork or something. I've
Yes.
got a pile of stuff that needs finishing. So
But
yeah,
it's important because it's your time to feed to regroup, to re-energize.
That's an interesting question. Do you have like um times when you just have to say and put it aside. I right now have like a half done tapestry and a baby sweater completely knitted and not sewn together. And I
Yep.
can't get myself motivated to finish either one of those projects. I keep looking at them going, ooh, not that. No, I'm not in the mood to deal with that right now. Do you ever get
Yep.
like, I'm just not in the mood?
Yep. Absolutely. Um, More often than I should, but yes.
But when you show up in the theater
Yeah,
at the moment, you have to be in the mood. You
you
have
have to be
to
in the mood.
like put yourself in it.
Well, and but also what I sort of love about acting and performing and singing is you have to put yourself in it, absolutely. But you're always going to bring who you are in that moment to your performance that night. You're always going to have the opportunity to just tell the truth about how you're feeling. And the sort of best example of that for me years ago, I was doing a production of a show called Beehive, and I was doing the Janis Joplin track. And so I was playing Janis in this concert towards the end of the show, and I had lost my voice
Well,
after
that's
like
perfect for Janice.
well, after like the opening night went great, and then all of a sudden it was like I had blown it out and I was in a panic. So I rehabbed it kind of enough to have something, but I still had to, it wasn't fully back. And I still had plenty of extra shows to do. So I would take this moment every night. I would like go out. It was a summer stock theater. I'd, go out sort of on the back deck before I had a big break before my Janice set, and I would have like a conversation with Janice. I would say I was going to like channel Janice. And, I would kind of go, okay, how are we feeling tonight? And whatever I was feeling, like tonight might be the night that Janice has had a little extra Southern comfort. And, and tonight might be the night that she's feeling really energetic. And whatever that was, whatever I kind of got out of that preset meditation, um, was what went on stage. And I ended up learning so much about myself as an artist through that. And still, still channeling Janice. And some nights I sang it better than others, and some nights I acted it better than others. She was this amazing artist who could just captivate. We talked earlier about cabaret and you being in this room with 40 people and it's just you and these 40 people
And you can see
having this,
their faces, right? You can see
yeah,
all their
and having
faces.
this
That's
intimate
really
conversation.
important. Yeah.
Janice could do that. She could connect like that where you feel like you're the one talking to her with 25,000 people.
Mm,
So it's like, you know, um, I just learned so much doing that show. But that was a show where I had no choice but to bring, to wherever I was at into the theater that night.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
really quite an
that's
experience.
one thing about theater. You don't have the option to say, I don't feel like it tonight.
Yes, right. That's
The
right.
show must go
The
on.
show must go on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I think it was still in high school. I was doing summer theater in the park in Heckscher Park in Huntington with the Huntington Township Theater Group, and we were doing Jack and the Beanstalk, and I
Okay.
was playing the old man. So I had a beard on and dressed like an old man, and I was the one that sold the beans to the little kid. So I'm waiting with my holding my cane, waiting for my cue, and I like, brush something off my face or whatever, put my hand back on my other hand on the cane and got stung by a bee.
Oh,
And
ouch.
I was waiting for my cue and I was like, ouch. I was not saying anything because I was backstage.
Right.
And so then I was whispering to the person who was like stage right. I got stung by bee. I need some help. So they go running off to go get some help, and I can hear the fuss going on in the back. And then I
Mhm.
heard my cue, and so I was like, "Oh, got to go on." Went
Yep.
on, did my whole bit,
Yep.
came off the other side, and they're all there to meet me, and they're there with like first aid kit and the band,
Right.
the whole thing,
Right.
and they're like, "Oh." And I said, what's going on here? They're like,
Right.
did you get stung by a bee? I was like, oh yeah, I did.
Yep. Forgot about that.
It's
So
like
in the zone.
the show, you have to just I guess the adrenaline of going on stage,
Yeah.
just, fix it.
I I had a night when I was doing the Kay Ballard show. I woke up one morning. I had a matinee performance scheduled, and I woke up like sick as a dog and couldn't even stand, couldn't get out of bed for more than like 30 seconds. It was terrible. And, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So miraculously, I somehow pulled it together a few hours later. So we were like, okay, I think we're going to show it because it's not like I had an understudy for a solo show. So I somehow managed to, be well enough that I could be upright for 70 minutes and do this show. And it was a packed house, probably the biggest audience I had of the whole run. I don't remember much of that show at all. I just went out on stage and I plugged into to Kay and to the material and I just did the show and I was like zoned. It's like so zoned into that Gretchen was zoned out. No recollection. It was like the show that got me all the good reviews and the the whole thing. It was like the turned out to be the best show in the run. Because yeah, and I don't remember any of it.
Wow. Well, you probably channeled it
I
from
think I
her.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I was just in the zone. That is something I know I channel when I teach. So that's something I've always known I've done a bit of. Yeah,
I think that all art is channeling. I think when we're in
you're
our
probably right.
creative self, it's coming from somewhere higher. You talked about it being like connecting something spiritual about it. There is something spiritual about it.
Yeah.
It's elevating us to a level, a different
Yes.
level where we're just pure creativity.
If you think about sort of too when there are ideas that multiple artists seem to have, at the same time, or you'll see it in Broadway, two different versions of Phantom came out at the same time, right? Two different versions of Wild Party came out one year at the same time. Like there are these sort of ideas that are being okay,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna put this idea in the
The
ethos
message
for
is
these
coming
artists to
down and
grab.
Right.
hitting two
And
people
then,
at the
yeah.
same time.
Well,
Yeah,
it's whoever grabs it and does something with it. Yeah,
Right.
I've got this big idea and I'm just keep talking to it and saying, please don't go to somebody else.
yep,
I'm here. I want to make it
yep.
happen. You
Well,
know?
exactly. And I remember, and sometimes there are, lots of variations. When I came up with the idea for the Kay Ballard show, I thought, oh my gosh, she was well known in the cabaret world and in the Broadway world, and I thought, this is too good of an idea. Somebody, like, by the time I get this show done, it took me over a year to, write and rehearse it and produce it and the whole thing. So I thought somebody else is gonna like take this idea. So I had been working in investment banking, so I knew all about project coding things. So the name of the show was Special K, a tribute to the incomparable Kay Ballard. And so, since it was Special K, I code named it Project Serial, and that's the only thing I would tell people I was working on.
Yeah,
And
good.
no, I'm working on my new show. What's it called? It's called Project Serial. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, that whole project coding thing. That's one of my biggest like pain in the ass things I have to deal with because
Yes.
10 years later, when somebody's asking you about something, they never remember the project code. And they're
Right.
asking you about it, and I'm like,
And we've long
I don't
forgotten the
see anything
actual.
in there related to that name.
Right.
Are you sure there isn't a different name?
Yeah.
And they, like, oh, well, I can't remember what we called it now.
Right. Another thing about that sort of that same idea, I remember another good example was I remember one year I was directing somebody's cabaret and the Van Morrison Moon Dance. So that song was in her set. I'm telling you, and because I just happened to have it in my like library of sheet music at home, and I thought, oh, here's something we never do. This is a great song. Let's do this song. So we put it in there. No less than five shows that season had that song in it in their set, and which to me was just like classic example of for whatever reason somebody thought,
The
That was the
universe
song to put in the
decree.
ethos.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
Yeah.
do
So,
have a copyright issue that you have to deal with all the time with this in order to sing these songs, right? You have to get permission.
So what you have to do in same thing in concert world. Most writers, songwriters, are a member of either BMI or ASCAP. And the cabaret clubs, most venues are members of BMI and ASCAP, so they're already sort of paying the dues for you. So if you're in one of those rooms that's a member of those associations, you're okay. You're covered because
Uh,
they're paying anyway
yeah.
as part of their dues. Um, you can you what you can do, especially which is especially great if you're working if you're doing original stuff with local songwriters, and I've done plenty of that, you can let them know, hey, I sang your song on, these two nights, and they can then have BMI or ASCAP pay them for those nights. So that's it's not a great deal of money, unfortunately, but it is out there for that to be done. If it's in a concert, where it gets tricky is now since COVID and since virtual concerts and performances, sprang up and became such norm. It's you started to see some of these copyright issues on YouTube and these
Yeah.
other platforms um, because they weren't covered in the same way as a live concert venue would be covered. So that got a little trickier. If you're doing, I mentioned the show Beehive. Beehive is again a jukebox musical of all 60s music. And so they had to license all that music for the show. But ironically, for theater producers, the most expensive part of that show is one silly little song that they wrote specifically for the show.
Wow.
All the 60s music is not particularly expensive to have in that show. So, it's interesting. But yeah, that is how you can get around those issues so you're not constantly paying copyrights. As a recording artist, so there are a couple of companies that will write your licenses, mechanical licenses for you to record songs. And I had a friend who does it for a living, and I had her when I did my album, I had her write all the licenses. I also was using a lot of local songwriter music, so was in touch with them directly. So we had all these contracts going. When it comes to doing a cover, the rule is if somebody has released that on an album for sale, if it's a recording released for purchase, you are allowed to cover it. So they can't deny you the license. You have to pay for it, but once it's out there in the world, anybody can cover it.
Mm.
So,
hmm.
yeah, it's
Do
interesting.
you have any like TikToks, Instagram, any videos
That was
out
my
there?
next question. That was my next
But
question.
we
How
I
think
about you?
alike,
Do you have?
Muriel and I.
Yeah, yeah.
I do have my Instagram, all of my stuff, YouTube as well. I think if you just plug in Gretchen Reinhagen, or it's G Reinhagen. Is that's I think my handle on Instagram um and YouTube. So I have some older videos, music videos on YouTube. I have some comedy stuff on TikTok. I also have a website and a page with reels where I have some audition songs, some clips from published work, performances and some things like that. So yeah, I did start a TikTok. I'm not good about it. I haven't gone back to it in a while. I started putting, like ridiculous things, which is if I write a comedy cabaret show, it's going to have a fair amount of stand up within it. And it usually has to do with my idea that the universe is constantly trying to give me material
Hmm.
and, and not helpful, just funny.
Hmm.
I used to use the bus a lot. Yeah, so I get on a bus to Boston, and the bus driver asks us for directions. Like these are the things that happen only to me. So those are the, those are the silly things that you're like, really? Really? And so that's the sort of theme that ends up in my show a lot.
Yeah.
Um, And so I have some silly videos like that on TikTok and Instagram. Yeah.
Does your wife go to your shows?
She does. She does. She's getting a little tired of it. You know, there's that kind of joke of the being the cabaret widow in the cabaret world because, she can only see so many shows. But she has come to almost everything. In the last couple of years, I've done some gigs where I've given her the night off. But she's seen the Kay Ballard show more times than I can count. And she's incredibly supportive. Yeah. And she's also an artist. So she's a
What
jewelry
what
designer.
what is her art?
She's a goldsmith
Oh,
and she
cool.
teaches
Wow.
goldsmithing.
Oh, we'd love to talk to her.
Yeah. Oh, she's wonderful. And she teaches at the 92nd Street Y,
Oh,
teaches
cool.
jewelry making and goldsmithing. So, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Um, and when I was first sort of doing the cabaret world, and when she first started in jewelry, she was doing a lot with beads, and she's really amazing with color and loves beautiful colored stones. And even when she was working with crystal, it would be like these gorgeous Swarovski crystals, and she'd find all these interesting shapes and, source all this great stuff. So she would make me these like crazy faceted, gorgeous sparkly things to wear on stage. I think she's made like all the jewelry that I've ever worn on stage.
Well, it's great to have a fabulous place to wear like big, interesting jewelry. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's
you can't
fun.
just walk out in the street in that.
Yeah, it's fun. And yeah,
Although there are people who do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I had just seen a video, I think, on Instagram of a bunch of like older women, older women. I mean, older women, and their flair was amazing. They had beautiful costumes, and
that's awesome.
I mean,
Well, you remember
women
Iris Apfel, right? It's like,
septuagenarians,
yep,
octogenarians with style.
yep.
And I looked at it, I thought, oh, I want to be that when I grow up. And I realized I'm already grown up. It's about time.
I don't know. Do
Wow,
you have
that went fast.
last questions, Sharon? Anything?
Yeah.
Um, hmm, I must have had a bunch of them, but like the conversation just flowed, and you forget your questions because it
Yeah.
moves in a different direction. It's been great talking to you, Gretchen.
It's been so wonderful talking to you, Sharon, and
I-
talking about something that we
other
both
than
love, other than legal bills.
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Also on the first of all, like the word when you guys described, and I think I saw this on one of your other videos, the original Aramaic of abracadabra, I was like, I loved that so much. And I've known this from our other conversations that this is another side of you that, that you guys are both really into, and so are Deb and I. Deb actually did her master's in theology, and all of her all of her jewelry, she'll still say it's all like has a it all has a spiritual theme or line running through it. So
There's sigils. The jewelry becomes like a
actually, yes.
sigil. Yeah.
Yes, and she's been talking about that a little bit more. And there's, sometimes it's like goddess kind of images that she's feeling in whatever she's creating. So I will absolutely tell her and put you in touch with her because
that's
she's got
great.
some
Because
fascinating ideas.
I feel like we're kind of on a mission here to show everyone out there how much creativity there is out there
Yes,
in every job, in everything that you do. I mean,
right.
honestly, even in my day job, I'm pretty creative with a spreadsheet, I have
I
to say.
absolutely I am too.
Creativity solves problems. That's how you solve problems. You
Right.
create a solution.
Yeah.
And I think that You know, something that's sort of a great takeaway too, because I started this job, I came back to it after having been out of the corporate world for a while, and I was in my 40s, and I met somebody that I really liked working for. So I went, okay, I'll work for you, but here's the deal, and this is who I am. And I'd always been like two separate people when I was younger, my corporate day job person and then
Yeah.
the gal who performed at night. And I am now me like 24/7. And I bring that to work. And I've often said to Andy, are you like, I'm not the person that you wanted sitting in the exec suite. You sure about this, you know? And we joke about it all the time, but I used to go out and do like a 15-minute set at reception. Like what, whatever
Uh,
like topic was on my mind, and we'd be laughing and having a great time, and I'd go and I'd write it down, and you
that
know,
makes his job interesting too,
it
because he's
it
got
does.
someone interesting to talk to.
It
I,
does,
I,
absolutely. And yes, in terms of problem solving, so you always be who you are because
yeah,
life is too short and we spend too many hours
right.
at these places. And
I
yeah,
think you're hitting on something that is a very important sort of cultural shift,
yeah,
and that is that we can't just be ourselves. And
yeah.
I had a group for a long time called the Institute for Spiritual Entertainment in New York, and had about 300 people that joined, and we did a lot of different events. But for some reason, I ended up doing a lot of coaching people about
Hmm.
their projects, and I would always say to them, look, you're not looking to be selling a book. You're not looking to be selling a script. You're not looking to be, you know, doing a manicure shop. You are exchanging energy. You're exchanging frequency. You're exchanging your love. That's what it that's what it all
That's what it's
is.
all about.
And I
Yep.
think there's more and more focus on that aspect of what we are all doing now. You can't
Right.
exchange the that energy frequency at the highest
Positive,
level if you're
positive.
pretending that, if you're like this person
Mhm.
over here and you're that person over there.
Yeah. I would
So,
say authentic.
yes,
Even
authentic.
more than positive, because we're going to have down days. But, but yeah, being our authentic selves and having that shift. And you also, just to add a button to that, you also made a comment earlier about, what's the one thing you can do, or can we bite off a little at a time when we're feeling overwhelmed with these, bigger projects we want to create. And I actually said to Deb once, am I making like, what am I contributing to the world kind of thing? Or, it's not like I myself am out there, changing the world. And her comment back to me was, but you are. You show up, you exchange this wonderful, beautiful energy, this art with someone. You've taught someone a voice lesson, you've helped someone else create a show, and you've done your little part, and that is changing the world.
Kudos to Deb. A supportive spouse is so
It
important.
is.
Yeah.
It
It's
is. It is.
that's one of the things that
Yeah. And I
that
just hung up on
creative
my
people.
spouse. Yeah, that was him ringing. If you heard the bell ringing.
Oh no,
Oh,
I didn't
sorry.
hear. But
Okay.
he's cool. He's very supportive, and
Yeah.
my spouse is very supportive. It's so important to have someone uh, accept that side of you, you
Yes.
know? This has been wonderful.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank
It
you
was
Thank
so
so
much
you.
much for
fun.
talking with us. We
Yeah.
really
Thank you.
appreciate you taking the time. It's been
Absolutely.
so much fun
I'm
getting to
grateful
know you,
to
and put
who's
us
been asked.
on your mailing list so
Okay.
that when you have your next cabaret,
We can
Muriel
go.
and
Yeah.
I will
Okay.
Yeah. We'll
drag
try
our
this one.
husbands out and have
Yeah.
a fun evening.
There you go. You got it. I will
Sounds
absolutely
good.
keep you guys on the list.
So thank you, Gretchen
Thank you,
Reinhagen.
Marilyn.
This
Yes.
has been lovely. We are Sharon and Muriel, Abracadabra sisters. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that other stuff that you can do. Subscribing is free, I think. And
Give us a thumbs up.
thumbs up and watch another video.